Probably the biggest slap in the face for Jujutsu Kaisen fans has been the untimely defeat of Gojo Satoru, the prime sorcerer who could talk the talk and walk the walk. Jujutsu Kaisen quickly went from a fun show about superpowers to every battle becoming a high-stakes adrenaline rush, where a single mistake spells imminent death. However, a lot of fans, myself included, are quite salty about someone who was considered the ceiling power in the series met his demise. Is Gojo Satoru not the strongest sorcerer in Jujutsu Kaisen, or did Gege write himself into a corner and had to kill him for plot progression reasons? This is what I set out to get to the bottom of. And today we will be asking the age-old question: could Gojo, in his prime, have defeated Sukuna? Now, you are free to love whoever you want more as a character. This is simply an unbiased comparison of the potential of these two powerhouses, so we can stop huffing the copium and crying ourselves to sleep every night. With all that out of the way, let's get right to it. First, let's go over both Gojo and Sukuna and establish what it means for Gojo to be in his prime. Since he has already shown to be a menace against every single foe, well, he could have full control over all of his feats, including mastery over the 6 eyes and Limitless. He's not considered the most powerful sorcerer for nothing, and his limitless control over infinity and space is practically an insta-kill status ailment. Moreover, Gojo's cursed energy reserves are insane, allowing him to efficiently make the most of his power techniques. And that is before his perfected reverse curse technique comes into play. Gojo can repeatedly regenerate both his body and his mind, letting him keep the pressure high, even against god-level foes such as Sukuna. Plus, he is the creator and user of his unlimited void domain expansion, which has canonically destroyed high-level threats as casually as taking a stroll in the park. Finally, he is referred to as the honored one of his era, and is confidently competent to the point of arrogance. But everyone has to put up with it because he's that guy. So, how does the King of Curses compare to someone like Gojo? Sukuna is a legendary apex sorcerer from the Heian era, making sure to cause trouble for multiple generations of good guys. Not only does he possess an overwhelming output of cursed energy, but he has thousands of years of battle experience due to his reincarnation, meaning that he has honed his skill to the point of flawlessness. Even without all of that, his Malevolent Shrine has the power to cut reality itself within a set radius. Pair that with his mastery over several powerful curse techniques, and you have a recipe for disaster. Moreover, he is an expert when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, adapting mid-combat like nobody's business. Just like Gojo, Sukuna's reverse curse technique is overpowered as hell, allowing him to regenerate insanely fast. But the most dangerous thing about Sukuna is his sadistic and analytical personality. He loves to toy with his prey, leading them down a spiral of psychological warfare, which shows that he has yet to go all out. He has surpassed many modern beings despite his revival handicap, and he is canonically the strongest being in the current era. So what does a death match between the two strongest sorcerers look like? For starters, let's talk about their raw power and cursed energy. Due to inheriting the 6 eyes, Gojo has proven to be the most efficient user of cursed energy, burning almost no energy while using his Limitless technique. Moreover, his reverse curse technique makes near infinite looping possible for him. On the other hand, Sukuna possesses a much larger pool of cursed energy, leading to a much wilder and destructive output. In a 1v1, his control over cursed energy would easily rival Gojo's precision. Plus, Sukuna's Heian era baseline is much stronger than the modern norms. So while Gojo would last longer in sustained battle techniques, Sukuna has the upper hand in destructive power contests. Next, let's talk about every sorcerer's trump card, their domain expansion. Both Gojo and Sukuna have insanely powerful domain expansions, which normal enemies don't hold a candle to. But which is stronger? Gojo's Unlimited Void can paralyze an enemy with infinite bouts of knowledge, and the sure hit effect goes directly for the enemy's consciousness and perception. It requires extreme resistance just to stand inside, if not in direct contact with Gojo, who can stack domains on top of one another. Furthermore, his domain regeneration feat is shown in the series, alongside being labeled one of the most refined domains of all time. What puts Unlimited Void in a league of its own is the massive overload potential that can break nearly anyone, and it does not even require physical contact with the enemy. Oh, and did I mention that all of this happens in a mere 0.2 seconds? But Sukuna's Malevolent Shrine goes band for band against Unlimited Void, being a barrierless domain that expands its effect into the real world's environment. Also, the sure hit effect guarantees fatal slashing damage with a massive radius. Moreover, the cutting slashes ignore conventional durability feats, so it is a slow, painful fate for the victims, especially when you consider the sustained domain output. Malevolent Shrine is lethal enough to solo entire cities and armies, and it can bypass closed domain counters. What's more is that Sukuna does not become trapped in his own domain, so there is a lot of room for adaptability and layering of curse techniques. Finally, Malevolent Shrine is known to be the greatest mass destruction domain in the entire series. Moving on, let's take a look at some special techniques that make you want to scream Hex Mode! When it comes to Gojo, his infinity makes him untouchable. His blue allows for attracting matter and crushing it effortlessly, while red causes explosive repulsion. Combine the two and you get Hollow Purple, an imaginary mass that can erase matter and space itself. Plus, his already overpowered techniques become far more optimized with his 6 eyes. And Gojo has a constant automatic barrier due to infinity as well. Not only that, but Gojo's versatile fighting style makes him a threat in both ranged and close quarters combat. Factor all of those feats with his unrivaled spatial manipulation, and he can easily decimate most foes unless he is countered. As for the King of Curses, his hacks abilities are Cleave and Dismantle, which scale accordingly to the target's durability. Moreover, his slashes can bypass physical armor and toughness, making sure to rain down the pain on his enemies. Furthermore, his reverse curse technique is so broken that he can regenerate almost instantly. Aside from that, Sukuna's adaptability mid-flight is unmatched, allowing him to go up against powerful new techniques. Not only is he excellent in martial arts, but he has also mastered multiple weapons. Plus, he possesses multiple elemental-style techniques along with his fire arrow. Also, Sukuna goes 9,000 IQ mode with his inscription-based binding vows, essentially rigging the system and becoming even more powerful. His Malevolent Shrine has a barrierless guaranteed hit, and Sukuna is capable of body possession and vessel manipulation. Lastly, his extreme personality allows him to psychologically control fights without even throwing hands. Of course, what power comparison is complete without factoring in speed and reflexes? Gojo is shown to react much faster than the other special grade sorcerers, while his space warping abilities essentially act as diet teleportation. Moreover, he can fight while explaining techniques casually, and he can blitz enemies before they can mentally react. On the flip side, Sukuna can react to speedy sorcerers with relative ease, and he fights multiple high-tier enemies simultaneously, putting him in a league of his own. Not to mention, he can read fights almost as if he possesses battle precognition, which allows his reflexes to remain calm even when he is injured. At the end of the day, both Gojo and Sukuna are far above the normal JJK speed scale, so it boils down to a battle between reaction and prediction. As for who is the more durable one among the two, Gojo can tank destructive hits like nobody's business, and Infinity makes him practically untouchable. His reverse curse technique is shown to regenerate his brain and body repeatedly, and he has survived world-ending level clashes in the past. On that note, Sukuna casually tanks and walks off tons of damage, regenerating from injuries almost instantly. Not only can he sustain his domain for extended periods of time, showcasing his durability, but he remains psychologically unfazed to the point where he can delete his vessel without giving it a second thought. In this category, both Gojo and Sukuna are nightmares to face off against, and they are matched quite equally. Perhaps one of the main detriments of how this fight lays out is the battle experience both sides possess. Despite his charming goofball personality, Gojo is actually a genius tactician capable of adapting during a fight and casually setting up deadly traps while carrying on a conversation. On the other hand, Sukuna has thousands of years of combat experience, allowing him to deal damage and pressure as he sees fit. Before even lifting a finger, he manipulates his foes psychologically and hides his abilities until necessary. In a fight to the death, it is never simply about who can hit the hardest, but rather who can dominate their opponent and force them to mentally surrender. Sukuna is particularly strategic when it comes to creating Shikigami and curse technique combos, making sure he always takes the worst case scenario into account. So in terms of pure ruthlessness and cunning tactics, Sukuna has the edge over goofy Gojo. Now, let's get boring for a second and talk about canon feats. feats, as much as maladaptive daydreaming is superior. Gojo defeats multiple special grade enemies easily, along with sealing and unsealing ancient catastrophes. Not only does he push the top sorcerers to their limits, but he is canonically given the title of the strongest sorcerer of the modern era. As for Sukuna, we can cope as much as we like, but he defeats Gojo canonically, even if Gojo was not at the top of his game. Directly after that, he takes on some of the strongest sorcerers and emerges victorious. Even destroying entire cities is no biggie for him, and he is recognized as the king of curses. His infamy is not era-bound, and Sukuna is considered the biggest threat to have ever existed. If we're talking about scaling alone, Sukuna comes out on top. So, what does all of this boil down to? Could Gojo, in his prime, actually have stood a chance against Sukuna? The short answer, only under certain conditions, but most likely no. To elaborate, if Gojo manages to land his unlimited void first, he has a chance at victory. But the second Sukuna adapts, the tide shifts dramatically. See, not only does Malevolent Shrine carry much more destructive power, but Sukuna has canonically bested Gojo in the series. Sure, Gojo is the strongest sorcerer, but Sukuna is the strongest being in existence, according to Gege. The domain interactions are the main determinants in this high diff battle between the strongest. Most likely, Sukuna wins by a hair, with Prime Gojo being his only true rival. That wraps up today's video. Facts don't care about your feelings, filthy casuals. Don't come for me in the comments. Drop your favorite between these two down below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe. If you don't, I will cast malevolent backshots on every one of you.